Hey, everybody. Welcome to my second podcast. This is the podcast for June 2021. Last month, May, I spoke about the five love languages, how they were created, where they came from, how they're important in relationships. If you missed that one, I recommend going back and giving it a listen. This month, I'm going to shift focus considerably, and I'm going to talk a lot about, high view, this is about internet safety and about safe relationships, safe interpersonal relationships on the internet. Let me start out by giving some context. In the last few weeks, there have been a lot of allegations and revelations regarding certain members of the voice acting community. And for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to refer to voice actors and actresses as VAs, just because it's easier to say. Before anybody asks, the folks, if you're aware of the allegations that have been put out there, you'll know that they're about some pretty visible and pretty prominent members of the VA community. Now, these are not people that I know personally. I am aware of them and their reputations and their work, although I've never listened to any of them. So I don't have any personal knowledge of these things. I really only know what's been put out there on Twitter or Reddit or other such sites. That said, the allegations are disturbing, to say the least. And this is going to be your trigger warning right here. There have been allegations of abusive behavior, violations of trust, infidelity, high-risk behavior, blackmail, gaslighting, some pretty ugly things. So like I said, this is your warning. If you don't want to proceed further, now would be the time to stop the podcast. As I said, this is going to be about internet safety, especially with respect to VA/listener relationships, but it goes a lot deeper than the audio world. It can extend to interactions with celebrities, with politicians, with other prominent individuals, or even just between people who meet on the internet. So let's start out by defining what a parasocial relationship is. We live in a day and age when not only have we had an explosion of information at our fingertips, but we've also increased our ability to communicate. Things like Twitter, Instagram, things of that nature really have increased the accessibility of celebrities and other prominent individuals to the general public. Think about it. It was not that many years ago that you could not contact your favorite, NBA player. Now you can tweet directly at them, and if their media team likes it, you might hear back. It's not something that, I guess you could have snail mailed them a letter back in the day, but it's at our fingertips now. It's much easier. And there's a lot more information. There are people putting information about themselves out there. We see this in reality television, for example. People are all the time publicizing parts of their life that not that long ago would have never been public. And what can happen with this increased access and with this information is that people can begin to develop a feeling that they have a personal connection or personal knowledge or a personal relationship with these individuals. And so that's what a parasocial relationship is. It's a relationship that doesn't really exist, that's been, I don't want to say imagined, but that has grown up in the mind of a person because of the exposure of the celebrity or whoever it is that they are following. Now, anyone can be affected by these, but those who listen to boyfriend and girlfriend audios, I think, are especially at risk because in these scenarios, these folks are starting from the standpoint of this VA is playing my romantic partner. And so it's already an area where people have brought their hearts, they have brought their emotions, they've brought their feelings, they've brought their fears, they've brought their insecurities, and they're having this recording, this voice actor or actress, soothe them, speak to them, help them feel loved, help them feel encouraged, whatever it may be. And those of you who know my work know that which I assume is all of you, know that I'm very much about positivity. I'm very much about helping people, encouraging people um, through their hardships, through their anxieties, through the things that are causing them stress. And I'm also about a lot of snuggles. So, and you may have noticed I've done a lot more boyfriend type scenarios recently. So that can be very positive. It can be very uplifting, but it can also develop into an unhealthy attachment in the listener's mind, such that they can become fixated on the VA in question. They can begin to have jealousy. They can begin to feel possessive of this person. And it can become a real problem. We see people, for example, in some of these alleged incidents, who engaged in very risky behavior with a VA who they really didn't know at all because they had been enticed by the persona that that VA was portraying in their recordings. They had become emotionally involved with that, and they had transferred that emotional investment and investiture over to the VA in question. Now, obviously, when it turns out that this relationship is not what they felt it was, they feel violated, they feel betrayed, they feel deceived. They feel that they gave up something very precious of themselves and that it was treated lightly, that it was treated disrespectfully. And I can see exactly why they would feel that way. I can see why they would feel that way. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that they teach in driving, they teach defensive driving. You have the right of way, you have the legal right to drive in a certain way, but they also teach you with defensive driving, assume that every other motorist out there is going to hit you. Assume that everyone else is going to violate the law. Assume that every other driver is unsafe. So you drive defensively. You don't say, well, I have the right to this lane, so I don't care if this guy's merging over into it. I'm just going to stay here. You anticipate the problem and you, as best you can, remove yourself from harm's way or avoid placing yourself in harm's way. And so in these kind of scenarios, it's where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure or a pound of heartache or sorrow afterwards. So this is why it's important. This is where it's very important for listeners, for those who consume different types of media, for those who follow different celebrities, to assume that this person could end up not being who you think they are. It's better to protect yourself. It's better to assume that you're going to get hurt if you open up, and be very, very careful who you open up to. Don't open up too fast. Don't open up too easily. And in no way, when I say this, am I victim blaming or victim shaming. I'm absolutely not doing that. I'm saying, however, that the world is full of bad people doing bad things. And the best we can do for ourselves is to place ourselves in a fortress, place ourselves in a safe place, place ourselves out of harm's way, avoid entering the jungle, avoid entering the lion's den, if that makes sense. So in no way am I victim shaming. I'm just saying it's much better to be very, very careful than to end up with your heart broken or your trust violated or betrayal and have regrets. And to that end, I think the very first thing that people need to do is to separate the voice actor or actress from the character that they're playing. You have to remember that, well, I'll give my own story as an example. I started out as a listener, and I decided that I wanted to help other people. I wanted to bring positivity to people's lives, and so I picked up a microphone and started recording. And you all know Mooney. You love Mooney. I mean, I assume you do. You're listening to this. Mooney is part of Matt. I'm Matt, by the way. Mooney is part of Matt, but he's not all of Matt. I'm a complex person. I've been through many experiences in my life. Some of them have affected me very positively. Others have been very challenging. I have flaws. I have weaknesses. I have strengths. I have wonderful talents and abilities, and I have blind spots. In other words, I'm a man. I try to be a very good man, but I'm not without my faults, not by a long shot. And the same is true of all voice actors and actresses. And I think sometimes when people get starstruck, they can idealize those that they listen to, or, we do it with sports heroes. We do it with actors and actresses. Why in the world do I care what this or that Hollywood A-list actress thinks about politics? Why is their opinion more important than mine? Why are they better informed than I am or anyone else? Well, the truth is they're not. It's just that we accord them that status. We give them more, we give their opinions more weight. We give them more gravity. We give them more significance. We pay them more attention. And the same can happen with those who listen to voice actors and actresses. They can begin to put us on pedestals and see us as the characters we portray. And that, I think, is the first step that can ultimately lead to regret, is to fail to recognize that Mooney is a very idealized version of Matt. And the characters that other VAs play are very idealized characters for the most part. And there are some very flawed ones too. I'm not going to talk about that. Next thing to remember is that just from listening to their audios, you don't know VAs. You don't know what kind of people they are. You don't know what they like, what they dislike. Let me give you an example. I'm going to get some hate about this, but the most recent audio I posted, the whole premise is that I'm saying pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. I'll tell you this. I love pineapple on pizza. It was just a lot funnier to make the audio with me being the one saying it doesn't belong and the listener saying it does. Okay. So in that audio, Mooney does not like pineapple on pizza. Matt definitely does. Okay. So just from listening to that, if you make the mistake of thinking that everything you hear on the audio is who I am, right there, you've made a mistake. Okay. And it's important to remember that VAs are not the characters they portray. You don't know them just because you listen to their audio. And some interactions with them liking some of your tweets, responding to comments, those are nice. It's nice to know that the people that we're reaching out to in that way are listening, that our comment was read, that it was appreciated, that they laughed. I remember one time I read a political commentary that I thought was particularly insightful and funny. And I wrote to the author and made a joke. And he wrote back. It was just like 2 sentences. Dear Matt, thanks for reading. Love the joke. Take care. Hope you have a great day. Just something very, very small, but it was nice. He read my email and he responded. I mean, how cool is that? This is a nationally syndicated political commentator that took the time to read Matt's email and write back. How cool is that? And so it's very easy to get elated, to get excited when that happens. But remember, those are not the signs. That is not the basis of a true friendship or a sturdy, steady interpersonal relationship. It can be a start. How many friendships have started because people interacted? My best friendship began with just a message on the internet. Didn't know that person would be my best friend. And it's been a blessing to both of us. So, from small beginnings, great things can happen. But that's all it was, is a small beginning. That friendship of mine took a long time and a lot more messages and a lot more chats and a lot more interactions to grow. It didn't go from one message to the wonderful friendship that it eventually became. Okay. It's important also to remember that voice actors and actresses, as real people, we have a right to live our lives. We have a right to have our own lives, separate from the characters that we portray, and not feel like we're going to face repercussions for being human, for having relationships in our real lives. And that's where jealousy can sometimes lead. That's where fixation can sometimes lead, is people feeling like they have an entitlement to this person. And history books are full of stories of just that kind of thing happening. So be careful. Separate the voice actor, actress from their character. Remember, they're not your friend unless you've taken the time to actually cultivate that friendship, and that does not happen overnight. In a broader sense, I can't state this clearly enough. Just be careful. If you look at some really, really old maps, off on the margins it says "Here be dragons," and maybe that's a joke, or a meme, whatever. But dude, this is the internet. Here be dragons. Okay, anonymity is a very, very powerful cloak and a mask. Think about some of the most horrible things you've ever read someone writing to another human being on the internet, in a forum, in a comment, whatever, some of the most hateful, vile stuff. Can you imagine the person who wrote that talking that way to someone face to face? And it may happen sometimes, but that's by and large not the way things are going to go. Anonymity gives people the ability to become someone or something they're not. And unfortunately, too often, that's exactly what happens. So the person on the other side of the keyboard very well may not be who or what they represent themselves to be. So this is why I say choose very carefully. Be exceedingly cautious when you choose whom to open up to and how much to share. Don't share too much too fast. Keep your soft targets hidden until it's clear that it's absolutely safe to expose them. And even then, you don't need to share everything. You're allowed to your own thoughts. You're allowed to your own opinions. Definitely be careful with anything that could be used to compromise you or that could be used to blackmail you. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to put the advice out there to just avoid sending nudes or other compromising images, or if you're going to, at the very least, protect yourselves by not showing things that can identify you, your face, your tattoos, your birthmarks, any other identifying physical characteristics. Don't give anyone anything that can ultimately be used against you, unless you are so sure that even if that relationship went completely off the rails, they would not do that to you. I mean, how many people have been burned by an ex who became vindictive or hateful and posted compromising pictures? So be very, very careful what you send, whom you send it to, and do so with the thought in your head, if this relationship were somehow to go bad, do I really trust that this would not bite me in the butt? So again, like I said, drive defensively, protect yourself, assume that people don't have good intentions. Don't start from the assumption. Make them earn your trust. There's nothing wrong with making someone else earn your trust. And guard your emotions. Remember, immerse yourself in the audios that you listen to. I mean, I try to make an immersive audio experience for my listeners, something that they'll really enjoy. My goal is to make it so my listeners can close their eyes and just be enveloped in the soundscape of the audio. But remember, just like the most well-made movie, it can tell a story. It can give good points, wonderful lessons. It can be uplifting. It can be incredible. But it's not real life. It can lift you up, but it can't replace real life experiences. And so don't lose sight of the fact that the VAs that you know and love are playing a character, that they're putting something out there to benefit your life, to bless your life, but that just listening to it does not make that person known to you or you known to them. Now, to wrap this up, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit and say that I believe that we VAs have a responsibility to condemn abusive behavior when we see it. Now, as I said, I do not know the individuals involved in any of the allegations. I am aware of them by name and reputation only. But the things that have come out, the things that have been revealed, the ones that I'm aware of are horrifying. And that is not acceptable behavior for anyone, especially someone who's been placed in a position of trust with people who are vulnerable. And to that end, I'm going to encourage anyone who's listening to this who is not a member of my Discord server, the Moonlight Sonata. I'm going to encourage you, if you'd like to come and interact with a group of people in a safe place, please consider joining us. You can find the links on the thumbnail and down in the description, links to the Discord server. It's a server that I co-administrate with Kativa, my best friend and creative partner. And the two of us work very hard to create a place that is safe, that is wholesome. It's a safe for work server. You're not going to run into compromising things or risque subject matter. It's a place where you can come and be safe. Don't take my word for it. If you're going to come and be careful and see for yourself whether you feel it's a place you can be safe. But you do have my assurance that it is. You can put me to the test. I care about you people. I care about people in general. I think people have infinite intrinsic worth. One of my core beliefs is that there's nothing that any of us can do ever that will increase or decrease our intrinsic worth, even one iota. Because as human beings, we have infinite worth. We have infinite worth. Now, we can do some pretty awful things. And the worth of all actions is not equal, but the worth of all people is, and it's without limit. I care very deeply for people. I care very deeply about providing a safe community and about being the person that my listeners have come to expect. So if you come interact with me over there, you can rest assured I may cause some chaos in the server. I may be a bit of a stinker and a troublemaker, but I will not compromise you. I will not put you in an unsafe position, and I will not tolerate people who do. That's enough soapboxing. Thanks for listening. Next month, we'll have another podcast. I do not know what it's going to be about yet. Put in your recommendation. Well, those who are members of my of the Procyon tier of my Patreon get access to all these podcasts. So at the beginning where I said check out the other one, well, you'll have to join my Patreon if you want to. This podcast has been made public because I think this is an important enough subject that I want to really increase its reach. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Do the right thing. The measure of character is what we do when no one else is watching. Take care of yourselves.